Hey, and we're live. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. This session we're spending and hanging out with Cantor. The purpose of some of these videos that we're doing here is to highlight the differences between someone like myself, kind of an average player who's played a bunch of games and developed a lot of bad habits, and some top-level players. So I just want to say welcome to the stream, Cantor.
Thank you.
So as a bit of an introduction for Cantor, he's done a fair bit of streaming with the Badger Guild. And an interesting tidbit, so he's currently ranked, as you can see on the screen, ranked 3. One of the interesting things is I was actually happened to be watching his stream. It was on February 25th. I researched it here. When he actually reached #1 spot on the ladder, and that was kind of really cool to watch. A side note that I wanted to kind of kick off the stream with is that you were, based on what you had shared, is that you had been 1 win away from reaching #1 spot twice before. So why don't you, I wouldn't mind hearing a bit about how you approached those losses the first couple times and kind of got your head back in the game.
Right. So yeah, there were a couple times. Not sure if it was 2 or 3 or how often, but yeah, I approached the #1 slot. I've always been thinking, like, I know I can identify my own mistakes, and I know I'm not the best scrolls player in the world. So being a rank 1 is kind of not legitimate in no sense, but I wanted that achievement. I knew I could get my rating up there. So what happened was I got really close there, and at that point, like, every win, it feels like every win, like you might get there, but then you win and you get like 2 points. It's like, oh, 2's not enough. And you keep going, and then when you lose one, it's like you lose like 20, you lose 30, and you're just like, oh, well, now I'm 10 wins away, and I don't want to do this anymore. So I go to sleep, try again the next day.
Yeah.
But I think the time I tilted out the hardest when trying to make rank 1, I didn't do on stream, luckily. That was against my guildmate, NRP. And yeah, he was #1 on the ladder, and I was rank 2. I was getting close, and then I hit him, but he's playing on his Smurf. And I was going to... it was a fairly close game, and then I miscounted my mana, and like thought that I had the 4 that I needed to Damning Curse his Great Wolf, but I spent something that lowered me down to 3 mana and wasn't able to do it, so that was a pretty devastating loss. But getting your head back in it, that's
a good sleep.
Yeah, just like that's a good sleep. That's the thing, really. Like, just to not play if you're tilting, just stop playing.
Yeah.
Do something else. That's really the biggest thing. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. It's one of the things I've learned over the last couple of videos that we've done is that everyone makes mistakes, and I think it's easy to kind of look on the ladder and go, man, how do you play perfect all the time? And the answer is you don't play perfect all the time, but you play the best that you can. And when you realize that you're not playing perfect, is that like Zark does, he takes a half-hour timeout, or take a break or take a rest, and
Yeah, try not to play
exactly
a match where you feel like something is at stake if you're not playing well.
Yeah.
So.
That whole...
Especially nice now that the testing grounds is actually a playable mode again.
Yeah.
So.
The whole mindset of when you're gambling is like, hey, just one more match and I can win back my ranking. Hey, just one more match. Hey, just one more match. And they're like, hey, a couple losses later, you're like, oh, that was bad.
Yeah, I try to go, like, it is also good to, like, teach yourself, like, don't let it get to you. Like, you should go and you should jump in and you should try and do another match. Just say to yourself, like, if I'm better than this, if I'm better than my rating, then if I just keep playing, eventually I'll get there, right? And that's true. And you should be willing to just, like, jump in and play a match. But it can be frustrating when you're like, well, I need to win 10 matches to get back to where I was. So let's get our head back before we lose another one.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So again, I thank you for joining the stream today and being on video for the coaching session. I think it should be a lot of fun. We've had some great sessions before. I've learned a lot. I think there's been some interesting comments on screen about some of the plays that we make, and so I think the purpose of this is to kind of show the difference in thinking and what someone like myself needs to change to maybe not necessarily be a top 100 or top 10 player, but what someone like myself needs to change just to improve my game. And so today we're going to go through ranged energy. So what we've done is I've done a starting deck build. Not quite sure where I got this one from. I think it was, I don't even remember where I got it from. But it's got a link from somewhere. So it's a build on, it's kind of a Bombard automaton deck.
It looks sort of like a Magpie Man build.
It might have been. I caught it online, so I think I changed one or two things. But why don't we take maybe 5 minutes, and if you can run me through what things you think we should change before we take it and have a game, that'd be great. Or how we can improve this deck. I think it's probably a couple weeks old now, probably a week and a half, 2 weeks old now. But do you have any recommendations on what we need to change?
Pretty quickly, I noticed things that I would do differently, not necessarily things that are wrong. This, like I said, this looks like a build that the Magpie Man put together. It looks very similar to when I saw him running. And he's been one of the big advocates for State Machine. So, as for it being a week and a half old or whatever, that's not really... It's hard for me to really comment on that. I've been playing a ton on the ladder in the last 2 or 3 weeks, so it's hard to say. What I will say as well is after the Power Trip nerf, I'm questionable. I find it a bit questionable. I don't know if it's worth it anymore. But it, like, all of the cards that are in here, like, this is a solid build, and like everything in here is justifiable. It's just not exactly what I would do.
Okay, well, so because I'm going to hop in here, because you're the coach and this is the session we want to kind of look at how you view things. I would love, whether this is viable or not, I think I would love to change it to what you would see and what you would play, just so we can get your unique perspective, because I think each coach kind of brings a different perspective to the match, so I would love to see what your perspective on this is.
So, are you asking for like what my ranged energy deck build would be?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, first off, I'm wondering, have you played with this deck in the past? Like, are you familiar with this deck? Is this what you're comfortable with?
I've played with a version of this deck in the past. I don't know if I've played with a specific one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've played with something very similar to this.
Yeah, because if I'm going to, like, talk about the decisions that you make and how you like to play, then I don't know how much sense it makes for me to just, like, give you a whole new deck and say you should be playing with this instead, because this is a good deck too. It's hard to say whether one is good than the other.
No, that's fair.
The one thing that stands out the most to me is also State Machine. So State Machine is good against like low HP creatures. It's really good against growth, but generally I feel like that's a metagame call. Sometimes people say like State Machine's good against other ranged energy as well, because it means there's a lot of energy creatures notoriously have low HP, so that can make a pretty big impact there. But I feel like that's mostly a growth thing, and I think that the Automata Forge is the most reliable choice for that slot, and State Machine is another option, but I think overall slightly weaker one.
Yeah, I've seen, and that was one of my questions. So I think I had 2 questions for this deck. If we went down the avenue of trying to keep as close to this deck as possible. One was the State Machine as a structure draw for the hired smuggler. So the, the Forge makes most sense, or based on your conversation, makes better sense. The other question,
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think the Forge is like the overall number one choice usually. State Machine counters some things fairly well, notably growth. And I've actually been considering doing Clock Library, but I haven't tried that yet. So let's not do that now. But I think that's something to consider. All
right. The second point of conversation for this deck was you brought up earlier is actually Power Trip, and so with the nerf to Power Trip that you no longer draw a card. you're essentially spending a card to be able to play an extra card that turn, depending on what kind of resources you have in hand. And so, if we take Power Trip out, which again I'm not sold on either, and it's not vital to this deck, what would be the alternate cards instead of Power Trip?
Okay. The cards. So just to quick rundown of everything that's different in this deck from what I am currently running. Instead of State Machine, I have the Forge. Instead of the Graveblock Elders, I have the Ironclads. A lot of people are running the Elders. I feel like 3 damage on your 5-drop just isn't great, just to be ranged.
Yeah.
I'm not running Solemn Giants. I think maybe I should. Solemn Giants has a lot of power. And I'm one of the few advocates of the Tempest Reaver and the Hired Marksman.
Ah, okay.
I'm a big fan of the Tempest Reaver. It can sort of serve the purpose of a Solemn Giant in the late game also. Like, if they pass the turn and you have, 10 energy open, you can just be like, well, I killed 2 idols, so
yeah.
It's game over. So, whereas the 4 health armored body is really valuable in a lot of situations, and just the ability of it to kill absolutely anything at any point in the game, basically. It requires an investment, but it being a consistent threat can be varied to whatever your situation is. I quite like. I'm also running Dust Runners instead of Gun Automatons. It's nice to have Gun Automaton. The purpose it serves in this deck is to give you an extra creature to play in the early game and take some board control. And I like Dust Runner a little bit better for that, because then you can combo it out with your Bombards later on in the game for 3 damage instead of 2 while paying 1 less mana.
Yeah.
So it's nice that way.
Okay. So specifically, for a 3-drop, if we're going to take Power Trip out, which I think I would like to do, what would be a good alternate for that?
I would say the Tempest Reavers are something that's interesting. Also, they're interesting. They require a lot of thought to play properly, which might be interesting. So
okay.
I also don't run Scout Automaton, but instead I'm running Spark. I think so, which I found I wanted because of Vengeful Vader, Hired Smuggler, and there's some other things. People are starting to put those 2 HP units back in because people aren't running the. You don't run into a lot of decay with their Soul Steals, and people aren't running Sparks right now a lot of the time. So I decided to put Spark back in.
Okay, so I think for a playable hand, just to recap, so we have Sudden Eruption and Thunder Surge, so we have those 2 for mass removal. We have Violent Dispersal for single removal. We have the essentially an automaton build with the Scout, the Echo, and the gun. We do have Bomb.
So also, that's another thing I didn't think about when I was looking at this build at first, is this is running Scout Auto but no Forge, and that just seems wrong. Like, if you're running Scout, you're running Forge. Like, you don't always,
Yeah.
Scout should not be in a deck that doesn't have Forge in it, in my opinion.
Okay. And I think the Scout specifically, which is a good point to get better synergy with that. I think the Scout was initially in this deck for the Echo to bump the attack to make sure that it to give you energy when it died.
Yeah, that's a good synergy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like if you're going on the Scout plan, that is a good reason to run the Gun Auto instead of the Dust Runner.
Yeah.
And I'd support that idea. But I think you need to go Forge if you're going Scout Auto.
Okay.
And you could even consider going up to 3 Scout Autos just to to tie the theme together.
So
to get that effect consistently.
Okay, no, that's fair. So if we went to 3 Scout, what would we remove? Remove a Tia?
I like the 2 Tia. I'd remove a Power Trip probably.
Okay.
I think a Power Trip, in its weaker form, is good as like a 1 or 2 up still. So yeah, maybe if you change your State Machines to Forges, remove a power trip to put in an extra scout auto, and then we can roll with that and see how it feels. Something along those lines. Or I guess you took out the power trip for the Tempest Reaver, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. No, this helps a lot.
Okay, so I think we'll start playing with this. I think you have some good points. I think I updated the deck based on some of your recommendations. It's not a deck necessarily that you would run, and you explain why the differences you would have.
This is very close to what I would run. I was running a Scout Automaton based deck on the test server, and then I eventually moved away from it. I just felt like it wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
On its own, and it was like too slow to get it comboing with other things.
Yeah.
But it's still definitely a good option.
Okay. So we'll see. There we go. So we're just playing OceanErnie. So thank you, OceanErnie, for being a willing participant in this. Okay, so starting off with, I look at my hand. My gut is that I do mulligan. I have an 8, 3 3s, and a 5.
Okay, so probably. I think bombards are better in mid game. Also, I'm not very good at mulliganing yet. I still forget that it exists sometimes. So.
And based on my last mulligan where I got greedy, I don't know if I'm the best one, but we got our curve right now is 3 3s, 2 5s, and an 8. So
I think that you could go either way here. I think that being able to play a Stormrunner on turn 3 is always good, and being able to having 2 elders at once is actually really powerful. So you might want to keep this and just sack the Taya.
Okay, so my other
go either way.
My other line of thinking is he's playing growth. So he didn't play anything turn 1, which is not unheard of, but I don't know if it's how aggressive his growth build is, and so I potentially go 3 rounds with putting nothing on the board, or 2 rounds with nothing on the board. Which isn't necessarily bad. So okay, so based on I'm a little scarred from being greedy last time, let's just play this out, see what happens here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sack the 2.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to throw down a 2-drop, but you don't actually have a ton of 2-drops in your deck, so you can't expect to play one every game.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up a good point about knowing what deck you're playing, because this deck has no 1-drops and only a couple 2-drops. So.
And there you go, it paid off. So, what are you going to sack for this one?
So for this one, I would sack. I don't have any synergies with the Scout Automaton yet, and I also don't have enough to do Bombard. So historically, if I look back at how I would have played, I would have kept the Bombard for saving a card going, I want to keep this when I need it, and I think that's part of the mentality that has prevented me from moving forward, because realistically, I'm not going to be using Bombard for at least several turns yet, and there's better plays to getting units on board versus keeping spell in hand. So I would probably sack the Bombard or the Scout.
Okay. I would definitely sack the Bombard or the Scout, but I would sack the Scout though.
And so, and the thinking is, just because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ranged creatures, that the Bombard will come in handy.
Yeah, the thought is that you aren't going to be getting a incredibly strong Bombard here, but you will probably be able to kill the... If you have to, there's a decent chance that you're going to play the Smuggler, you're going to play it probably to the bottom or the top row. He's going to move towards you, and then you can move towards it and play the Bombard on turn 3 even, and then suddenly you have board control instead of him just killing the Smuggler for free.
I see, I got you. Okay. And so what I'll do is, based on the conversation that we have, is I'll give you a 10-second warning when my turn's up, because we, in prior learnings, is that we've almost missed a couple turns, which is my fault. So, okay, so I'm just making sure your screen refresh is going fine on the screen share.
Yep, I'm
awesome.
Following along.
Okay, all right, so we're, I would sack, at this stage, I would sack Automata, play Bombard.
So there's 2 lines here,
yeah,
in my opinion, and those are what you said or the opposite.
Which is sack something else, play Automata in front of the...
Yeah, you could sack Bombard and play the Forge if you wanted, because the Forge has a lot of HP. Basically, it's the only reason. So either way, you could be wanting to trade the Bombard for the
trade the bombard for the brave.
You could trade it for the brave, but you might actually be better off by trading for the forge, because if the forge is going to survive the brave's attack, and then your smuggler is going to be attacking next turn anyway, so she can still potentially kill the brave.
Yeah.
And then you'll still also have a forge in play, so you'd be sort of like card up.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, do I keep its growth so I don't have to worry about them being next to each other necessarily? But positioning is fine because leaving it in the middle and the bottom gives me more maneuverability of squares to go to, so I think it's keeps it there. Okay.
That's always a good thing to keep in mind. Something else to keep in mind in this situation, though, is if you had placed it in the row that his units are on.
Yeah.
If you'd moved up and placed it in the row that his units are on, then he can't run away from you.
Ah, yes. Yeah. And I think that's...
So your smuggler can chase.
Yeah. And that's one of the pieces that you sent when we were prepping for this feed about positioning and how important positioning is and where players put their pieces. Okay, so we have got a burn, Stormrunner, and 2 Gravelocks. I would sack Storm.
Oh, you got a burn, eh?
Yeah, I would.
My screen share is locking up, so I think the line is pretty obvious that you want to pillage and burn the brave or burn the breaker, right? But I can't see anything right now.
Yeah, all right. I just restarted it to hopefully that. Okay, so burn the Stormrunner.
Sorry. You tell me what you would play.
No.
I shouldn't just be playing for you.
No. That was good. So the what I was saying is I would sack Stormrunner for resources, play burn on the breaker.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, I think the line of play here is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
The question is more so: do you want to get the pillage effect, or do you want and risk the brave killing the smuggler, or do you deal 2 damage to the wolf? And let the breaker or let the brave just hit the forge. Okay,
so that's a good question because we do have so the structure we draw would be an automatic forge. So if we do hit the pillage effect, we do get a structure next turn. 10-second warning. What's the better play?
I'm not sure. I think the pillage is what I would do, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so pillage is what I did here. So we got. We drew a card out of that. We drew the automatic forge from that. So now either our first one takes 2 damage from the brave, or he moves up to...
Okay, so in my opinion, you got lucky here. I think that was good for you.
Okay, so so now we have the play. We got the Violent Dispersal, an automatic forge, Echomaton, and 2 Gravelock Elders.
Okay. What are you thinking?
I would sack Violent Dispersal, play move the Hired Smuggler up, and play Gravelock Elder in middle row. Because I can't attack his creatures right now, or I can play, that's one line. Second line is playing the Automatic Forge in front of the Hired Smuggler middle row.
Okay, cool. So, if you were going to play, why would you play the Forge? What's the plan?
If I play the Forge, it would be to simply protect my Hired Smuggler or to get presence on board. Okay. Didn't think that one through too much.
Alright, so the Forge has the same HP as the Elder, so I think the Elder's a better play there. The advantage if you play the Forge is you don't need to sack for resource, so you can sack for scroll.
Yeah.
Why are you sacking the Dispersal? Okay, you need to make a move. So I would suggest you play that Elder and move up to the middle. But as to what you sack, it could be anything really.
All right. I sacked the Echomaton.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's what I would do also. Just because he's being very aggressive and an Echomaton, and like growth doesn't really rely on playing a lot of spells. So
yeah. Especially with the build that it looks like he has, it doesn't look like he's playing an enchantment deck.
Okay. Oh, I should have thought of playing that. That was unfortunate. So that pillar is being okay.
Okay, so we drew. So we have 2 violent dispersals, a forge, and an elder.
Well, 2 dispersal seems like overkill. So anyway, what do you sack here? What do you sack?
I'd sack dispersal for cards to figure out what the play is.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the point where like the only time you'd want to sack for anything other than scrolls would be if you needed to play the dispersal this turn. And
yeah.
It doesn't look like the dispersal's the right play.
Okay, so we can play an elder or a forge or a canonetta, but we can't play 2 of anything. So we can take out a wolf. I can move up for pillage effect. I would probably do.
Yeah, what's your preference?
I put forge to protect the unit, but again, that's not too sure that's the play.
Okay. I think you want to try and use all your mana, so that would be the elder.
Okay.
Now, do you want to kill the wolf or do you want to pillage?
I gotta get rid of some of his units.
Okay.
No, yeah. I'm thinking.
I think that you should say. I'm thinking that the wolf will probably die to Thunder Surge in the coming turns. So.
All right.
But. Yeah. Probably. I feel like you're behind, and that Thunder Surge is sort of a godsend, and it's gonna be important. So you can play with that in mind.
Yeah.
Getting some units off the board is a problem, but you're fighting a losing battle there, trying to trade 1 for 1.
Yeah, especially with the way the decks is mixed.
And if you get that with that forge draw, you can play 2 forges this next turn.
Yeah. So oh, there we go. He separated them out. Okay.
Still could hit a pretty big one down there, but it'd be risky. Sack
the canonetta for resources. Play 2 forges.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. But I'm not entirely certain if it's the correct play.
Is there a better play?
The other option is the elder, or hitting that Thunder Surge while you have the chance. It's a big Thunder Surge at the bottom. So then all your stuff dies. So,
yeah.
You might want to move out to the top because he can only attack you with 2 units at the top because he has structure there.
Yeah. And then Thunder Surge?
But you might want to move into the middle because your units are attacking next turn and you need to threat. So.
But if I move into the middle, he kills both units.
Unless you play like a forge in front. But.
Got it. So the play is 2 lines are either the 2 forges or Thunder Surge.
Yeah, or you could elder also to get the extra HP, and you have 2 elders in play, but that probably isn't correct.
Okay, so let's do.
I'm thinking 2 forges probably. But.
Yeah, and where does the second forge go?
At the top.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. Just because, like you said at the very start, you want to keep your movement options open, and you don't want the forge to die. So
yeah,
you want to go to where you have the strongest chance of doing that. So he can do a lot of damage to you here, but if he's going to attack with the wolf, then he's not going to be able to summon if he's going to attack with the brother, he's not going to be able to summon a wolf.
Yeah. And if he attacks in the middle row, he has to move his units down, which clumps his units together more for the next Thunder Surge.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention as well. But we were running out of time on the last turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why I think moving to the middle is better than moving to the top, because this forces him to clump his units up together in order to threaten you.
Yeah.
And like your Thunder Surge is probably going to win you the game, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially since he did that. So, like, he's going to move the wolf down, and then he's going to move the... Yeah. So he's going to... Okay, did that.
That's still it. So he is separating out.
So he's trying a little, but
yeah.
You're going to hit him really hard.
Okay, so this one, to me, it's Thunder Surge time.
Yeah.
So
what do you sack,
sack the Tempest Reaver.
it's either that or the dispersal. Tempest Reaver is really nice against growth due to its armor, but the dispersal you'll probably need for the wolf.
Yeah, so I was thinking for the Great Wolf to use a dispersal for the Great Wolf.
Right on.
Okay, so let's do this. So let's sack Reaver for cards. Machinate and Foundation. And Thunder Surge the middle here. Okay, so if that's the play, we got about 50 seconds. I want to use whatever time we have here. So,
all right, sweet.
So the Gravelock will take out the brother. Now, do I keep the hired smuggler to take out the veteran in the back row, or do I pillage again?
So what I would do is, since you know that what you're doing with your mana, you should just do that now to see what the board looks like afterwards.
Okay.
So, because there's another unit you can attack here.
Oh, the sister.
Yeah. Now my screen share's locking up again, but
okay.
I don't think that you have enough damage to kill the sister. It should be at 4 HP now, I think.
Yeah, it's at 4.
That's right. So you can't kill it with just the elder, which is what you would ideally want to do.
Yeah.
But it's important to prioritize that unit because it's attacking next turn. I think it's probably better. You're starting to stabilize, so it might be. Yeah, I think it's probably better here to kill that the veteran off than to pillage,
right.
Which looks like is what you did. Now that I've gotten the screen share back.
Yeah, my guess is based on the timing here, probably about every 12 minutes you lock up. So just let me know on stream when you lock up, and I'll restart the share.
Okay. Man, that the idle death flash looks crazy.
All right, so we have Violent Dispersal, Elder, Machinated, Ekmaton, and a Burn.
Okay, sweet.
I would swap out the Ekmaton.
What would you swap it out for?
6, 7, 5, 2. Burn and I'd swap it for cards.
Okay. What are you gonna do with your 6 mana after you swap it for cards?
I would probably
You're hoping to draw a 2-drop and play a burn. And a 2-drop or.
I don't. Hoping for a 2-drop, play a burn or play Violent Dispersal on the Great Wolf.
Okay. Playing Dispersal on the Great Wolf is not a bad option. My thought is, what's going to happen to your Forge?
Forge is, if I don't take care of the Great Wolf, the Forge is dying.
Mm-hmm. If you pump the Forge this turn, it produces before it dies.
So pop for resources, play burn, and pump the Forge?
That's the line that comes to mind for me, but there's a lot of ideas that could work here.
All right, well, let's do that.
What are you going to burn anyway? So that's another thing. If you know you're going to play burn, you need to burn quickly to see what your draw is going to be. Okay, so you burned the Brave. All right.
I could have burned the Wolf. That might have been a better play.
Could have burned the Totem.
Could have burned the Totem, yep.
Which I think is the best target, but it's hard to say.
Because it's an overall, it helps overall with all the units attack because it reduces everyone by 1.
Yeah, he had 3 units attacking that turn, so you would reduce his damage next turn overall by 3. Whereas by killing the Brave, you also reduced it by 3. But
but it was 3
But the Brave wasn't attacking any of your units that turn. So.
Yeah. That's right. The Brave would have attacked the Idol, so the units weren't at risk, whereas currently, based on how the board is, the units are at risk here. And now he plays another Totem.
What are we at here? Oh my. Played another Totem and a Ragged Wolf.
Yeah.
This looks awful.
Yeah, this is not good.
Okay. So he has 2 Totems up. Yeah, so killing the you'll notice the Wolf only hit your Idol, so VDing the Wolf wouldn't have helped you. You would have been in an even worse spot if you VD'd the Wolf last turn.
Okay.
But you should keep the Wolf with the VD in hand, obviously.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would 6, 7, 8, set 2. I would sack the gun for resource. No, what am I doing here? I would Sack the Gravelock Elder for resources. Play Violent Dispersal and Gun Automaton and get more units on. And Violent Dispersal the Bear.
Okay. Are you pillaging or are you attacking the wolf or the other?
I'd be attacking the wolf.
Okay. There's a line that kills both of his units that are attacking this turn.
Violent Dispersal and Machinated?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Might be play.
Okay,
but
I don't
lots of stuff.
Have a lot of turn. Now, ideally, if I would have had more time, I would have probably moved the Gun Automaton down.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that would have been better, but not a ton better. It's getting to be really harsh. So you can't protect your smuggler any longer. You could play a veteran. You could play a ragged wolf. You could play a rallying. You can't play God Hand yet, which is convenient for you. Mangy Wolf. There's the other option.
Yeah, there it
He's
is.
playing, Wolf deck. Does he win this turn?
He wins next turn.
Could he have won?
3.
No, I don't think so.
No. All right, so I think about probably 8 turns ago was a good game based on the play that I did. But at this stage, you still
I
here?
don't remember what misplay you would have made, but I think he's gotten the upper hand here for sure.
Yeah. All right, based on the time, I think we have time for one more game, so I would like to maybe good game this one and do one more game if you're up for that.
That sounds good.
All right, so let's do it.
Absolutely. Hadn't noticed the time.
All right. Now what will...
So
Sorry,
I feel like your deck construction might not have been great against growth here.
Yeah.
What I like against growth is that's why I like to play those ironclads. I find are quite good against growth, while still just being well-rounded units. Most people don't like them. I don't know. A lot of people will say if it doesn't bombard, it's no good. Body's so much better.
So do you want to?
It lets you approach. So.
Yeah. Do you want to try the same deck, or do we want to change the deck build a bit and do another game?
Let's just stick with the consistency. It's just so we can see how the deck plays as it is.
And do we? I think the guys are up for anything. Should we do? Should let them choose what deck we play against and just have a game, or should we play against a specific faction?
What would you prefer?
Good question. I'd like to try another round against growth.
It's crazy how.
Actually, he won't be playing.
It's difficult to know what to do with how short the turn timers are. I don't know whether there's time for me to get your input while also being able to have time to say what I think is the correct play.
Yeah. All right. So what we'll do is I'll let him choose the deck build, whatever he does. I'm cool with that. We'll choose whatever he wants. And what I'll do is I'll try to keep my version quicker as to what I think we'll do, and then I'll get you to kind of share your version, and I'll give you I'll let you know when about 20 seconds is up, when 20 seconds is left, because then I actually got to start playing the stuff on the board.
Okay.
So I think that might work better.
Sorry, I sort of missed that, but it's all good.
So gist of it is I'll talk faster, give you time, and I'll give you a 20-second warning when we actually have to move units.
All right.
Okay, so I go second. He's not going to play growth. He's playing order. Starting hand, decent.
So the first thing to think about, right, is what is his actual deck?
So it's tempo, late game, mid. He's there's no mass removal. Lots of countdown reduction.
But is he going to be playing the aggro order that's pretty popular right now, or
I don't know.
We don't know. So either way, obviously, would you mulligan this hand?
I wouldn't.
No, of course not.
And the question is, historically, I would have saved the Violent Dispersal. My guess is is that the correct card to pitch?
I would sack this dispersal every time here. Yeah.
Just because we won't need it till later on.
Potentially much later on. With your current hand, you might stay on 4 resource for like 8-9 turns. Because sacking for scrolls is very powerful. Being able to consistently put more and more threats on the board is a great way to get ahead. And when you have strong threats like the Storm Runners and the Auto Forges that you can play for cheap, you might not have the scrolls available to sack because you want to put them all on the board. You don't want to be.
Yeah. So he's at 2 turn. He hasn't played anything yet. I'd sack Cannon Automaton and play Gun Automaton.
Yeah, probably. Cannons, yeah, give it a bit, I guess.
Unless we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Unless we sack the Iron Whip.
No. With Stormrunner?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you should just think about like what your game plan is in the next few turns. Your game plan with this hand is you want to control the board. You're gonna be dominant. So you want to be strong at the low resource counts.
So the plan is 2 this turn, 3 next turn. On the 4th, we can either do an Automata or a Storm Runner, and then depending on what we draw from there. Okay, so I sack the Cannon, play the Gun 3rd row middle. Sound about right?
3rd row.
Or where should the gun be placed?
I almost always place just the very center square. Oh, 3rd row middle. I see. Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking you meant like back of the.
Oh, sorry.
Row. I got my columns and rows mixed up.
No, vernacular. Sorry. Someone was mentioning on a previous session that it should be like chess, where you have annotation to highlight what squares you're moving to where after a bloody misplay by me. Okay, so he's attacking next turn. We got Sudden Eruption.
Who's attacking next turn?
Sorry, the gun is attacking, not this round, next round.
Alright.
I would sack Sudden Eruption.
Okay.
What's your thoughts?
Sudden Eruption is the obvious sack, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For resources, obviously, yeah. The question is more what you play. So the threats that are likely from him are... Yeah, so think about what he's probably going to play.
So he's going to 4, so he can play Skirmisher, he can play any one of his creatures depending on what his draw was. If he's running a aggro deck, doesn't look like he is, but if he is, he can have a bunch of options in hand. So Automatic Forge in front of the gun?
I think that's my line as well. The reason I want the Forge is so do you think he is going to use a Blessing of Haste or a Roasted Bean?
15-second warning. I don't think so, not next turn.
Okay, if I didn't think he was going to, I'd play the Stormrunner. But I think there's a good chance that he will, so I would play the Forge.
Okay.
The Stormrunner is a more important threat. You want to get it counting down as soon as you can.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's too vulnerable right now. It would probably die. So, or like, there's a good chance it would die. So.
Yeah.
Powerbound. So he's going late game. That's crazy.
Sack the Solemn.
Okay. What do you sack Solemn for?
I would sack it for cards, actually. Yeah, I would sack it for cards.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do too.
Because we have a couple plays for the next couple turns. We don't need resources yet. It's fairly solid.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people forget, is that like just having extra cards in hand allows you to make better decisions about what to sack in the coming turns. Like next turn, you'll have more options of what to sack. So
play Storm Runner, move the gun back to the back, and play Storm in the middle.
This seems good. Whether it's better to have the storm in front or the gun in front, is arguable. If the storm in the middle means that it threatens a larger area of the board.
Yeah.
But storm at the back means it's better defended.
So in this case, he didn't have a lot of units on board yet. He could focus, so I would say middle is okay this time.
Yeah, middle's okay. Because he'd have to play a lot of cards to kill it this turn.
Okay. All right, so we have Machinated, we have Ekomaton, Iron Whip, Storm Runner.
Sit pretty.
There's a couple things that we can do. We can do sack for resources. Okay, so I would sack a Machinated for resources. Your thoughts?
So you're thinking Machinated for resources to play Ekomaton?
I don't know.
Okay. So if you're sacking as a general rule, there's some exceptions, but as a general rule, if you're going to sack for resources, you need to have a reason to be spending those resources on. So, here Ekomaton would be a thing that you could do if you sack for 4. You're probably right about Machinated being a good sack here.
30
the
seconds.
other thing is you're going to lose
30-second win.
All right. Why don't you do what you think you would do, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
After.
So let's do
His turn.
Ekomaton. So here, Ekomaton on the 4th or 5th row.
You don't want to get attacked.
Yeah. Okay. So he's going to get rid of the forge, and if he has speed, he's also going to get rid of or haste. He's going to get rid of the Storm Runner. The other alternative we could have played last turn was an Iron Whip Machinated, which I don't think would have been really good. That's why.
You could have played the Iron Whip. I don't think there would have been any reason to play the Machinated because it can already kill anything.
Yeah.
That you needed to kill. Which doesn't use your mana incredibly efficiently, but that's not necessarily a huge deal. So you're in good shape now.
Oh yes, okay.
Really good.
So I would machinate the Storm Runner, move the Storm Runner up to the front.
No. Well, you machinate the Storm.
Oh no, sorry, I don't need to. Sorry, no. Sorry, thank you. Kelsey shook his head and punched me. So the I don't need to move at all.
Your son did?
No. My buddy I have here.
Okay.
So Machinate the Storm Runner. He doesn't have to move.
And then Automaton kills the...
Yeah, Automaton kills a shield.
Yeah, just great. Gets rid of his armor by killing him with the Storm Runner first.
Sack Violent Dispersal for resources and play another Storm Runner.
Sounds great.
That's a pretty solid board wipe.
Yeah, no, you're in great shape after that. Where do you play your extra Storm Runner?
Order, no removal, 0 cards in hand. I would play second row middle. Just for board coverage? Is there a better place to play it?
I would put it at the front of the center row. Sorry, the center... Yeah, center row. I would play the front of the center row to protect the Machinated Storm Runner.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't
not that it's in danger of dying this turn, but the problem with placing it where you suggested is that it is vulnerable to Mangonel, which he can technically draw. If he draws something and stacks it for scrolls, and those 2 scrolls happen to be a speed and a Mangonel, and it was really unlikely, but if he did do that, you would lose 3 of your 4 units.
Yeah.
So the things that he can do from here are basically the only way he can actually threaten you from an empty board is with speed.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I would sack Sudden Eruption for cards.
Yeah.
And just play. Play Gravelaw. Oh, where would I play Gravelock? I would play Gravelock bottom front in front of the Echelmaton.
Okay.
Is there a better positioning for that?
I think that's a good position. I think your instinct's right to put it at the front. I would also want to start spreading my units out a little so that I can threaten any unit that he plays.
So
the exact positioning is like really subjective. There's tons of different positions you could use, but I think it's important to remember that just because you're not attacking anything right now doesn't mean that you shouldn't be moving your units.
okay, so the middle row, 25-second warning. So the middle row that we currently have 2 Storm Runners and a gun. Do I move one or some of those units up?
You always want to place your units where they can move the most. So the places they can move the most are basically not in the corners. So I would move a gun up. I would try and place the.
I ran out of time.
You want to control the middle, like, something like that's not bad.
Sorry, I ran out of time.
I like to spread out a little too because of mangonels, but I actually spread out more than I need to.
Yeah.
Because I spread out. I'm getting so used to playing against energy that I spread out when I'm playing against people that don't have Thunder Surge. You want to be. Yeah, you want to move your force together. You want to control the middle, because that way you can react to threats quickly and efficiently. But you also don't want them to be like all right in the middle because you don't want to give him the opening of playing something on the side. You want to put him in a situation where no matter where he plays his unit, it takes damage before it gets to do anything.
So I have now Iron Whip, Hired Smuggler, Thunder Surge. I can't destroy his Cleaver this round.
He played a Cleaver for 7 or for 6?
Yeah.
And anything else?
No.
Okay. My screen's locked up again.
Okay, I'll quickly change it here.
You actually can kill that Cleaver with the Iron Whip if you like. What did you sack?
I haven't yet. So
okay.
It should be popping up on your screen here shortly.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm back.
Okay.
Great.
So sack Thunder Surge for cards.
Yep.
Then when we have that, we have 2 Hired Smugglers and Iron Whip. We could. How would I kill him if I iron?
You could Iron Whip somebody and kill him. I think so.
He has 5 health though.
Oh, I was thinking that I'm a moron. I thought that the Storm Runner could lend a hand, but it can't.
All right, I gotta play here. I gotta play. Sorry, 1 second. I'm gonna die here if I don't play.
No, go ahead. You
This is
can't
bad.
really make a mistake here. So anyway, but yeah, it was my screen locking up, unfortunately. But yeah, no, you're in good shape.
So now is really bad positioning for Mangonels. I just needed to get units on board in about 4 seconds. So that was my.
You wanna.
That was my flood of the board here.
You played the right cards. The positioning is
questionable at best.
But it looks like you're fine. The chances of him having a Mangonel here or there were incredibly low anyway because he had an empty hand. So.
Okay, so we have Iron Whip, Violent Dispersal, Machinated. I would do get rid of Violent Dispersal for 2 cards.
I would also. I would also.
Then we have I could do if I move Bombard. We could do Bombard, move Stormrunner down, machinate the Gravelock. What would that do? It's a lot of plays.
I think you might want to hold that Bombard for later.
Okay, so I would move Gravelock and Echelmaton down.
Definitely.
Do I want to Iron Whip the Gravelock to get the extra damage to kill the Skirmisher?
Wouldn't you want to whip
Definitely
the
not,
Skirmisher?
because you could Iron Whip the Skirmisher instead to get that extra damage.
Oh, yes. Okay, so let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. I have 23 seconds, so I have no units. Is there anything else that I want to Iron Whip? Not
You can
especially.
Iron Whip the Storm Runner if you like, if you want to wipe the board. If you want to save your card advantage instead, then you don't need to, but it's probably worth it.
How would I wipe the board with the... Oh, I see. Oh, shoot. Let's see what dude. No, don't. Oh, see, it worked. Ah, I missed it.
Ah, it's a shame.
Cutting it closer.
So it takes down to 1. So he's going to get it to attack, almost certainly.
Yeah.
What he gets it to attack, like he's not going to be able to do a ton of damage with it, but he's probably going to play some sort of blessing or something. I guess I shouldn't have said almost certainly, because he has a very small hand, so there's a good chance he hasn't drawn it, but he hasn't played any of his blessings or roasted bean potions yet all game.
Yeah.
And he's finally gotten it down to 1 countdown, so
So in
he's
theory...
going to want to do that.
Yeah, in theory, he should have 9 countdown reduction cards on 28 left in his hand.
Yeah, he's probably sacked like something.
Yeah.
He's probably been forced to sack some of them, but yeah, there's the blessing.
Yeah.
So. And an aging knight. Okay.
Okay, so do we play Bombard this turn?
Yeah, so this is a good reason to have saved your Bombard. I don't know if you have to play it now, but you could.
So
if you do play it now, what can you kill with your Storm Runner?
it's nothing. I can kill everything else with the Gravelock, the Echomaton, and moving the Gun Automaton down to the back row. So I can kill his 3 units, but the Storm Runner doesn't kill anything.
Are you sure it doesn't?
Kill the back unit so that the 2 damage goes through.
Yeah, so we could do that. So we could, kill this unit, kill the front unit, the Knight.
You take out the cleaver for 2 down. Oh wait, he has 7.
So move him down. Move him down here. Okay, so what do we got? 40 seconds. So move Gun Automaton down to the back row. Move Storm Runner down to the back row in the middle. So middle back row. The Storm Runner takes out the Knight. The Gun Automaton takes out the Wings Cleaver. The Gravelock takes out the Aging Knight, and the Echomaton does idle damage.
The Echomaton doesn't attack because it's not ranged, but you do get 2 pillage triggers, which is excellent. You can also play a Canonetta before going off if you still have your sack, which you do, which you need to spend quickly. If you sack for a resource, you can play the Canonetta and get it to attack as well. Or you can stack for scrolls just to keep your economy up. Either way is correct.
Okay, so I sacked for resources, put cannon in the middle, bombarded.
Yeah, no, you're in great shape.
All right.
That's another thing too. It's one of the things about this deck that isn't true of most decks is that you do need to pay attention to. Is that people can get confused by the attack patterns of the Storm Runners, which I did earlier during this cast already. And a good trick for that is if you hover over the Storm Runner. If you hover over the Storm Runner and it shows that, if you just like extend that and look at every adjacent square, those are the ones that it can attack if you move.
Oh, yeah.
That can become misleading if they, if you have a structure that's stopping you from moving into those squares, then that might not be true.
It can be misleading.
Generally.
Okay, so I would, our turn, machinated 2 Forges and a Storm Runner. I would sack Storm Runner for scrolls.
I would also, yeah. Storm Runner is an incredibly powerful early game card, but not as important now.
Okay, and then I would move positionally. I would move the current Storm Runner up to the middle in the second row to be able to attack a burn. What do we got here? 3, 6, 4, 4, 5, 6 machinated. Okay, so there's a couple things we can do. We can do a Scout Forge. We can do double Forge. We can do a single burn. To use most of the resources, it would make sense to play 2 of the 3 resource cards because it doesn't make sense to machinate anything right now. So I would probably play an Automata Forge and a Scout Automaton.
Cool. You actually have 2 automatons, I guess.
Yeah.
I would probably just play both Forges. What's interesting is positioning that
I got 10 seconds.
Go ahead. You've got 10 seconds. Go ahead. I'll tell you after. It shouldn't make a huge difference. Right?
Oh,
It
that's
might,
the third.
but we'll see.
Ah!
Either way, you'll still be ahead.
That was close. I was thinking about whether to put the forge on the top row or not, so I chose not to, but...
Cool. So, what I would do here is, I'd be afraid of that general. So, basically, you're far enough ahead that you never want to give him the opportunity to come back into the game. And his opportunity for coming back into the game is playing speed on that general.
Yeah.
So, so I would have not moved towards him because your Storm Runner is capable of killing him from effectively 2 squares away. So I would have kept him in the middle row and been like, well, you can't kill me, but I can kill you. Right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's the sort of thing that you have the potential of happening to you. Is he plays the haste, he's able to get some damage in that potentially could have been prevented if you'd had nothing in that row.
Yeah.
The positioning of your forges obstruct your movement a little, but not a big deal. I was thinking I would play it in the front of the center row.
Yeah.
But yeah. Either way, you're looking good. Something that you should be considering at this point is, how do I win the game?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you get... Okay, so another problem that we've got now is your incredibly powerful Machinated Stormrunner that is... He killed that first Vanguard, if I remember right. He's the same guy.
Yeah.
It would be great for him to attack this turn, but he only has 1 HP, so you can't Iron Whip him without dying.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be game?
This one right now, game, you mean?
Oh, no, that's...
So so we got 65 seconds. So I can machinate the Canonetta. I don't know how useful that would be necessarily. I don't have so swap for cards first. So first of all, I'd swap for cards. So I have I sack the scout.
Oh, you're so close. You're so close to lethal. You're one damage off, I think.
Yeah, I'm
counting wrong. Anyway.
Okay, so what do I need to sack for? Sack the scout?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. That's the best bet. You might want to play burn just because it's a burn.
Burn on the... There we go. Okay, and then we have... I'm going to do this here.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good thing to do. You might want to move that...
Oh, lost it.
That's all good.
Time out.
Yeah, you might want to have moved the Stormrunner, so like I said last time, just so that it's out of range.
Yeah, he just got bonked.
Some of his damage. And then he died to Kabonk. Alright.
Yeah.
So yeah, I spent most of that turn trying to figure out if you had lethal. Which is something I used to forget to do a lot. I'm starting to get better at that. But yeah, sometimes you can end up using your whole turn trying to figure out if you have lethal, and you realize you don't, and then not have any plans for doing anything else.
Yeah.
That can be a big problem. But now he wasted his speed, so that's good. Yeah.
So I've asked him.
He needed to be a bit more patient there.
So I've asked him to run out his turn so we have time to chat. So his general is going to kill my Machinated Canonetta. I have the Ekumaton attacking next turn, which I would probably move up to kill the 7 idol. I would play, just based on what I have going on here, I would play sack whatever I get. I could do sack for resources, play Gravelock Elder and Automaton, or sack for scrolls and play...
So I would sack for scrolls almost every time here.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because if you draw a Bombard, you win the game, and I would like to give myself the chance to draw that Bombard.
Got it. So,
basically the main reason.
sack automaton, Ekumaton, sorry.
Yeah, Ekumaton's not doing anything for you here. Like, you don't care about the ramp right now.
Bombard.
It's not gonna have time to build up. So there you go. There's your bombard. You win. So yeah. So that's why I would sack for scrolls.
All right, so let's just here.
I'm locked up.
All right,
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm going to just do, as we just wrap up the session, I just want to go through a couple things with you.
Cool.
So I think Zarek or someone else earlier on today said we should definitely start petitioning to have a stop countdown timer for if for nothing else.
It would be so good for challenge matches. I'd love that.
All right, but regardless, so what we have here is a couple things from that match that I would like to chat about a little bit. Just give me a second because my chitlins are... Hey, boys. Just 2 level notches down just a bit. We're almost done. They're still playing Halo. Okay, so the a couple things on here as I go through. Is your screen refresh with the deck? I think we're just mostly chatting, so if you don't see my screen, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So I had a couple good points. So my lessons, if I look back at the time you spent. So first of all, thanks for hanging out today. That was really cool.
It's been fun.
The positioning, and I've said this a couple times, I think it's definitely one of the biggest challenges. Like I definitely, where I'm at...
Positioning is what separates the top players from...
Yeah. Like I think I can do a little better deciding whether to sack for resources or scrolls. I think fairly consistently I'm okay with making that decision. What to sack, I'm getting better at, but I think what to move on the board where, and not just that, but also why. I think that is what, to be blunt, separates the men from the boys, so to speak, is that, separates the level where am I at versus top 100 level is ensuring you understand why you position things on the board, where you position on the board, and why you do that.
I absolutely agree. Other things that don't really show up until people get near the top of the rankings is counting your cards, which is something that I don't do very well. This is something that the Overlord is one of the people who spends the most time talking about that.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And counting your opponent's cards. We touched on that a little bit in the game against when he was playing his cleaver, and we were like, well, he hasn't played any of his countdown reductions, so he should have them.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a good point at the end of the game where I had totally forgotten about it, where you said we should draw for cards not only because we have enough resources, but also because we're looking for that bombard, which isn't, I hadn't considered.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't start to do until I started playing a lot, and I started to really start to climb. And that's to call your top decks, which sounds crazy. It sounds crazy to be like, I'm gonna top deck this, and then to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not because you're just incredibly lucky. That's a thing because once you start to understand what's in your deck and what you haven't played yet, and what cards you could draw that would be very useful here.
Yeah.
That you start to do is to start to say I need to top deck this right now. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. But being aware of what your top deck might be separates the men from the boys as well.
Yeah, and I think you have a good point. Is part of the reason why I wanted to do some of the streaming to help not only to help the community, but also one of the big pieces of advice that has come out from just reading and looking at different ways to improve my game has to be to talk about your play, and that's a lot harder to do. That's a lot harder to do when you're just hanging out having a game or two, and you kind of forced to do it when you're streaming or hanging out with someone else or have someone else over, because it forces you to think about what you're doing and why, and then to your point, what cards do you have in hand, what could you top deck, what could the opponent top deck, what he has or hasn't played.
That's something that helped me immensely when I was streaming. My skill level, or at the very least my ranking, changed dramatically after starting streaming and after joining the Badger Guild. Just actively talking through what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And getting other people's input on why you did the wrong thing or
Yeah, exactly.
etc.
Yeah, why is this play a bad play, or why would it have been a good play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like not to say that not referring to me sitting here in particular, but when I was streaming the chat, obviously.
Yeah.
People in chat love to say what you did wrong. So that always helps out, right?
That never happens. What are you talking about?
No, never.
Cool. Awesome. Again, thanks so much for hanging out, and you had some great insight, some great tools that you've given me to look a little bit differently at the decks that I'm doing. Again, so I just want to give a shout out to Cantor and the Badger Guild for helping out, and have an awesome afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
All right, thanks, man.
Hope this helped.
Oh, I hope so too, and I hope
this session went well.
Yeah, and I hope the people viewing, and when we put the video up, I hope it helps other people to maybe think about the game a little bit different, or have an opportunity to look where you can change your own game and get a level higher. Anyways, thanks for joining us.